Wow, I wish you could feel that right now. You know, if you've ever wondered what an auto-loading rifle action would feel like were it made by Omega or Rolex, just get your hands on one of these and wonder no more. Welcome to Precision Riflecraft, and thank you for joining me. A great big thank you to my friend Jeremy in Toronto for loaning me this Swiss masterpiece. This is the APC 223 made by B&T or Brugger and Tomet, which has been making interesting firearms since the mid-2000s. Prior to that, they made suppressors, so it's fitting that a handful of their weapons are integrally suppressed, and all of them are suppressor-ready. They make a couple pistols, one that's threaded for a suppressor and one that mostly is a suppressor, as well as 40mm grenade launchers, a wide range of 9mm and 45 ACP submachine guns, and of course rifles. Their SMG line includes a couple 9mm that are integrally suppressed, as well as several louder ones that can be controlled with folding stocks like the rifle I'm reviewing today, as well as buffer tube stocks and rail stocks. They even have one that can't be controlled at all. They also have a less than lethal option when a threat needs to be stopped but doesn't necessarily need to take the air temperature challenge. Now, it's their rifles that get my heart racing. By far the most interesting one is this integrally suppressed 9.8-inch 300 blackout bolt gun. Apart from this other bolt gun, available as a 24-inch 308 and a 27-inch 338 Lapua Magnum, all their other rifles are gas guns. They offer an 8.7-inch 300 blackout, an 18.9-inch 308 Winnie with either a short or long handguard, and 5.56 rifles with 12.5, 16.5, and here in Canada, 18.8 inches. That last one bestows upon this rifle the coveted non-restricted status, allowing us to enjoy it in the great outdoors, for now, and own it without registering for future confiscation, again, for now. As far as I can tell, their select fire rifles capable of full automatic fire are limited to the APC 300 in 300 blackout, and a version of the APC 223 called the APC 556. Now, all of these autoloaders operate with a short-stroke gas piston system with an adjustable gas block with two positions, normal and suppressed. They have a very distinctive style, which is typically sort of tall and narrow, very, very narrow, in fact. So if you want to fit as many rifles as possible into your safe, you might consider buying APCs exclusively and fitting them maybe with red dots instead of big 56mm objective scopes like this. They also have a very interesting hydraulic buffer mechanism that dampens the recoil impulse of the rifle, and you can really feel it when you cycle the action manually. It's a very interesting and novel design. All the controls are ambidextrous, including the safety, mag release, and bolt catch, so it's very friendly to left-handed shooters, notwithstanding, of course, the right-hand-only ejection port. The charging handle is also ambidextrous, so you can run it from either side. You can set it up on the left side for running with your support hand when operating the rifle with a red dot or a similar optic, or move it to the right side and run it with your dominant hand when running a scope like this to avoid dragging your knuckles across the scope mount's rail nuts. Now, it's worth mentioning that both the semi-auto-only APC 223 and the Select Fire APC 556 share the same 556 chambered barrels, so it's perfectly safe to use both 223 and 556 ammunition in these rifles. Now, if you've been looking at this rifle, you're probably aware of what they're asking for it. Here in Canada with tax, it's running about $4,500, so it's not an affordable rifle for everybody, but it is a premium product, and you really feel that in most aspects of the rifle, certainly in the action and when you field strip it and you inspect the bolt carrier. You really feel that this is an extremely well-made rifle. You would expect it to be for that price, and you would expect it to be reliable, and you won't be disappointed in that respect. I will note, however, the ejection is, I don't want to say weak, but if you recall the last video we made about the Type 81 rifle, that thing was ejecting cases, I think I measured it 15 paces or something. So this isn't that. This rifle is ejecting brass about 12, 18 inches, so I was actually very surprised that I didn't have any ejection issues, but it's run flawlessly, and certainly that's made it a lot easier to collect my brass. Now, if you're looking to spend that kind of money on a rifle, you probably want to know how accurate it is, so we're going to move swiftly right along to accuracy. Now, in my research prior to making this video, I came across an article written by Caliber Magazine, an excellent publication here in Canada, and I was surprised with the accuracy results that they had reported. They indicated a maximum accuracy of 1.53 MOA with Remington Premier, of all things, and just 1.71 MOA with Federal Premium 69 grain Sierra Match Kings. I was a little bit surprised that any Remington load would outperform something like that Federal Premium, and I was also a bit dismayed that they didn't include any additional information, such as how many rounds comprised each group. I mean, was it a 5-round group, a 3-round group, a 10-round group? They just didn't say. I also had some doubts about the way they set up the rifle using these very cheap-looking rings and only a 12-power Swaro scope, good glass admittedly, but it doesn't even have a focus adjustment, so it's not really the optimal optic for measuring accuracy. I therefore had a high degree of confidence that I'd be able to get better results with this rifle using my Athlon Cronus BTR Gen 2 4.5 to 29 by 56 rifle scope in a Cadex mount. So let's go through this, guys, from least accurate to most. I started out with a load I didn't particularly have high hopes for, but I wanted to give it a shot anyway. It's Hornady Black with 62 grain full metal jackets. That predictably produced a result of 3.18 MOA. The next load was another Hornady, their Superformance Match 5.56 75 grain boat tail hollow point. And I should mention that this rifle has a 7-inch twist, so it can stabilize the heaviest of .224 bullets. That produced a result of just 3.04 MOA, which frankly surprised me. I expected a little bit better from it. The next load was another Hornady Superformance Match, this one discontinued, the 223 73 grain ELDM. We saw a sizable improvement, though not sizable enough, at 2.41 MOA. The last Hornady load was their Match 223 73 grain ELDM. Now that one got us closer to the mark at 1.36 MOA, still not sub-MOA unfortunately. Next we tried the first of two Federal premium loads. This one is the discontinued 5.56 77 grain Sierra Match King. Finally, we have a sub-MOA result at 0.92 MOA. But wait, there's more. Lastly, I ran the Federal Premium 223 69 grain Sierra Match King, the same load the Caliber magazine reported 1.71 MOA with. A very, very good result at 0.88 MOA. So a very, very accurate rifle, guys, for a piston-driven gas gun, and there's a broader takeaway here, which is the importance of doing proper load selection tests when trying to derive the maximum accuracy from a rifle. It's very, very important to find the load that your rifle likes, and some rifles are pickier than others. I would say this is a pretty picky rifle because all but the first of these were premium loads, and among the 5 premium loads, discounting that Hornady Black, we saw a range of 3.04 to 0.88 MOA, so very, very broad spectrum. So that's the good news, guys. Now, what's the bad and the ugly? Obviously, first of all, the price is a bit cost prohibitive for a lot of shooters. Again, here in Canada, this is about $4,500 for just the rifle with tax. You add an optic like this and this bipod, so as configured, this rifle is about $7,700. Very, very costly, unfortunately, and that's the 223 version. If you want to go up to the 308 version, identical rifle, just bigger bolt, bigger barrel, you're looking at another $2,000, so about $6,500 with tax, about $9,700 as configured. And again, very, very cost prohibitive for most shooters. And it's unfortunate that they're not able to produce this at a lower price point. It is made in Switzerland, and you do see that for the most part. But unfortunately, they do cut some corners, which is disappointing at that price point. The most conspicuous corner that's been cut is, unfortunately, the stock. It does fold, which is a nice feature, but it just looks and feels very, very cheap. It's kind of flimsy, and it's impossible to get a proper cheek weld with an optic like this. You're not going to get a cheek weld at all. In fact, the only way to get a proper cheek weld with this stock is with a red dot optic mounted as low as possible. If you use any kind of optic or optic mount intended for an AR pattern sight plane, you're not going to be able to get any kind of cheek weld with this stock. It's just not going to happen. And it's very difficult to bolster. It's difficult to modify to get your cheek up higher. So it is disappointing on this rifle, but fortunately there is an alternative, but of course it's going to cost even more money. A company called Haga Defense makes a stock called the HDZ or HDZ, and it is a beautiful, beautiful stock. It looks a little bit like a SCAR or ACR stock, and it's actually just a Magpul Zhukov stock that's modified to fit this rifle beautifully. The trigger is another disappointment, unfortunately. It's not a bad trigger. It actually breaks really cleanly. It does sort of have a feeling of quality about it. There isn't a lot of creep. There's no grit. But this one breaks at about 5.5 pounds. And frankly, for a rifle that's being marketed to target shooters, I don't think a lot of guys are hunting deer with this rifle. You could, of course, in most places, not all. But yeah, for a target rifle, I would expect to see a better trigger. They could have shipped it with a Geissele at that price. Certainly Bushmaster did with the ACR, at least the DMR version that was sold up here in Canada had a Geissele trigger. And 5.5 pounds is just unacceptable. I think I could have done a lot better in the accuracy department, particularly shooting long range with a better trigger. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. The other bad news is that it's a little bit difficult to replace. I've done a little bit of research, and some people report considerable difficulty upgrading the trigger. Some AR triggers will work with modification, and others just won't, so you're kind of limited that way as well. I wish they had either put a better trigger in it, or just an AR pattern trigger that could have easily been swapped out. The bolt release is the last and the least of my criticisms. It's just so stiff. You know, it is ambidextrous, but it requires a lot of force to pull down and release that bolt. I wish they had used a simple AR pattern, paddle type bolt release, where you can smack it with your hand or just push hard on it with your thumb, and that releases the bolt really well. They went with this very clever mechanism that allows it to be ambidextrous and not just on the left side of the rifle, but it is very, very stiff and requires a lot of force to release that bolt. For weight, as configured with this optic and bipod, it's a 6-to-9-inch bipod on an American Defense Manufacturing QD mount. You're looking at about 12.7 pounds, and again, this is the Canadian 18.8-inch barrel version. B&T claims 7.7 pounds out of the box, no optic obviously, for the 16.5-inch version. So having established that this is an accurate rifle appropriate for long-range shooting at those sort of intermediate distances appropriate for the .224 bullet, we decided to take it out to the field and stretch its legs. I should mention that I used this Magpul 10-round P-Mag. It's pin to 5, of course, here in Canada, but it's a 10-round mag. Because the 30-round mags, of course, were dragging a little bit, I found they're a bit too long for prone position shooting with this rifle using a bipod of an appropriate height for the design of the stock. And I went to this 10-round P-Mag for that reason. Now, Magpul makes these 20-round P-Mags as well, as seen here in my Ruger American with its original stock. And I think that'd probably be the best overall choice for this rifle if you're going to be running it prone, especially if you live in a jurisdiction where standard capacity magazines are permitted. Then my first choice for this rifle would be those 20-round P-Mags. My friend Kyle joined me to help me with the spotting, and we started out by setting up a range at 495 meters or 541 yards. So let's have a look, guys. The first round struck the lower rebar frame, swinging the plate from its splash. The second round was a square hit with perfect elevation, and the third landed at the precise spot my dad almost burned a hole through this plate using my .308 at just 256 meters. The last two were good impacts, with one landing a bit low, and overall, of course, that's a hit probability of 80% at 495 meters or 541 yards. The next firing position we set up was at 670 meters or 733 yards. Now, unfortunately, we had an issue with the downrange camera. It hadn't been focusing, and I didn't realize that until we got home. So we'll skip past that footage, but I can tell you that we had 5 impacts out of 13 rounds, a hit probability of just 39%. We had the wind pick up when we were shooting, and unfortunately, it didn't do quite as well as I hoped it would. But our next firing position is where things got interesting when we decided to see what this weapon system can do when pushed beyond its supersonic range. We set up our last firing position at 827 meters or 904 yards. As you can see, according to Applied Ballistics, that 69 grain Sierra Match King is moving at just 1,136 feet per second and has only 198 foot-pounds of energy, about that of a .22 LR at point-blank range when pushing a 31 grain bullet at about 1,700 feet per second. So we're really pushing the limit of this rifle system at 904 yards here, guys. Shooter ready.
One target left and a bit high.
Talk to me.
I didn't see that one.
Okay, stand by.
You're very, very on it. I think you just went under it, I believe.
Under it.
I believe so.
Stand by.
And that's just a bit high.
Windage is good.
Yeah, it seems pretty close to center.
Stand by.
That one was looked a little higher again.
Shooter ready. That's a hit.
Yep.
Stand by.
Just to the left, I believe.
Nice square hit there.
Yep. I didn't see where that one went.
Shooter ready. Top right corner, right?
Yep. Just low. Low again. Just a touch high. Geez, I'm not sure where that was on top or below.
Shooter ready. High, center.
Yep.
Bit left to center. That was a hit.
Yep.
Another hit. We got one more round.
Just to the left, I believe.
Empty. That's it.
All right, guys, so that's just 5 hits out of a full 20-round box at 904 yards, which, of course, is a hit probability of 25%. I'm pretty happy with that. I think we're asking a lot of this rifle system, both the ammunition and the rifle itself. Again, it's a piston-driven AR-type rifle. We're pushing 69 grain Sierra Match Kings quite a distance down range. And I will mention that there was no keyholing at all. I meant to take a picture of the target, but I forgot. It's an 18-inch man-sized target, by the way, and there was no keyholing at all. Those 5 impacts hit the steel square on. Nice round splash, and that was a bit of a surprise because I have seen 168 grain Sierra Match Kings fired out of a .308 Winchester keyhole when pushed through that transonic phase of flight. So these 69s do very, very well, and I'm quite happy with this bullet, and very, very happy with the rifle system. I think it did very well given what we asked of it. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, a great big thank you to Jeremy in Toronto for sending me this rifle and trusting me with it and allowing me to review it. And Kyle in Vancouver for joining me and helping me with the spotting during the long-range shooting segment of this video. Hope to see you all again next time.